This video contains subject matter that may be offensive and disturbing to some people. If you are the type to require a warning throughout a video or show, let this message serve as your warning. This channel discusses the harsh reality of true crime. If this warning is not sufficient for you, consider a different genre and unsubscribe from my channel immediately. Is it back? Can you hear any audio in the background? Oh, now I'm wondering if it was on. Let me check something. If I go to the middle monitor. When I go to this middle monitor, tell me if it's making sound in the background.
Filmmaker
I wonder if it's something over
and
here.
left-wing activist John Sullivan. John, you filmed this moment on your phone. Can you describe what happened?
Yes, what?
Yeah.
You can hear audio now in the background?
Basically, all the protesters kind of.
Okay, now if I go back to here, can you hear it here? I don't know why it must be like a clip that I played one time. How about now? Okay, so now that we're back on this screen, you can't hear it, right? Okay, God. So that means there's something on that middle monitor. Let me just try this one instead, then. You know, smaller window and everything, but you can't hear it. Now it's fine too, right? I'll have to figure out. I must have had a clip connected to something on that middle monitor. Okay, at least we sort of isolated where the problem is. So right now it sounds fine, right? Okay, interesting. Must be something set to auto play when I go to that middle monitor. Interesting. All right, well, at least we, figured out what the hell was going on there, I guess. Oh, not quite yet, but know where it's going on. All right. So, as we were talking about earlier, there was a woman found in Texas in a swimming pool in 1966. July 5th, I believe, and she hadn't been identified. All right, so here is the article. Thank you guys for the look at. It worked. And whoever sent me the super chat, thank you on the last one. But it was in Pecos, Texas. Mysterious death of an attractive young woman in a motel swimming pool here late Tuesday afternoon continues to puzzle investigating Reeves County officers. Let's see. We're still in the dark on this thing, admitted Deputy Sheriff Roy Chisholm. The key right now seems to be with the woman's missing male companion. The body of the unidentified woman, about 19 years old, was found floating in the pool of the Ropers Motel just east of the Pecos city limits on US Highway 80. And I have that. It's still there. Same name, everything. It's pretty rare when you have that. But here's the Ropers Motel. And there's a swimming pool, probably even in this building right there, I would imagine. Maybe. It's hard to say. That's just the biggest building. These all look like where people would live. And maybe right there, here, possibly. All right. The body of the unidentified woman, about 19 years old, was found floating in the pool of the Ropers Motel. Miss Paul Rooks, manager of the motel, told officers the woman and her young male companion had checked into the motel at about 2 p.m. Tuesday. She said they were not heard from until several hours later. At about 5:30 p.m., several guests were reported to have heard screaming from the area of the motel pool. Sandy Moore, 16-year-old granddaughter of the motel manager, told officers she rushed to the pool and saw the young woman's body floating in the pool. She was wearing a swimsuit. Miss Moore told officers a man she presumed to be the young woman's companion helped pull the drowned woman from the pool and helped attempt artificial respiration. Wow, that's weird. An ambulance was called, and the young woman was rushed to Reeves County Memorial Hospital. She was dead on arrival. The mystery element entered here, according to Deputy Sheriff Chisholm. The dead woman's male companion asked the motel clerk for his registration card back, purportedly to be used for identification at the hospital. Witnesses said he asked for directions to the hospital and was last seen driving away in a late model dark blue sedan. The man is the object of an intensive search for law officers today. We have very little to work with, Deputy Chisholm said. The missing registration card blanks out the investigation. The missing man was described as medium-sized with slender build and blonde crew-cut hair. Chisholm said he did not know if the man and woman had registered at the motel as man and wife. The missing registration card might have also given this information, he said, along with handwriting samples. Yeah, so it's weird that the guy took the registration card. How did they check in? Didn't they need ID to check in? You know? I guess not. Maybe back then it was a little different. Thanks, Ozo. The results have not been announced. Chisholm said they might be able to later today, the autopsy results. The mystery woman was described as being black-haired, white woman between 18 and 20 years old, according to estimates. No identification was found. Then 2 days later, this one seems to have a little bit more information. An Odessa couple looking for their long-missing daughter made the sad trip to Pecos today to view the body of a mysterious young woman who apparently drowned in a motel swimming pool here. The distraught man and wife have agreed, however, that the still unidentified girl taken from the swimming pool is not their 19-year-old daughter. The father of the missing Odessa teenager said the resemblance between his daughter and the dead girl was almost identical. Wow. Dental tests made by a Pecos doctor and confirmed by missing Odessa girl's dentist established almost beyond doubt that the drowned girl and the daughter of the Odessa couple could not be the same. The Odessa girl has been missing since December, according to her parents. She was last heard from in Denver, Colorado. The missing Odessa girl's mother said her daughter had numerous fillings in her teeth. A Pecos doctor who examined the drowning victim in the presence of the Odessa couple said she did not have fillings in her teeth. I still find it hard to believe that was not my daughter, the tearful Odessa mother said. She looked so very much like her. Wow, that's pretty crazy. The woman agreed that dental tests were conclusive. Sheriff A.B. Nail has furnished news media with a detailed description of the girl. However, Sheriff Nail said the woman's identity remained a mystery even after a check of her fingerprints with authorities in Washington, D.C. An autopsy on the dead girl has been completed by an Odessa pathologist. However, have the results of the autopsy today. They will have it today. The dead woman's male companion, who checked into Sheriff Nail, said he did not. Who checked into Sheriff Nail. I think they left out some wording right there. It just goes, who checked into Sheriff Nail, said he did not the motel. Man, it looks like they're cutting off some information or something. Into Sheriff Nail said he did not the motel. I don't know what that means. Nail said the dead girl was a very attractive brunette with brown eyes, between 18 and 20 years old, 5'4", 120 pounds. The sheriff said she was wearing a gold-red bathing suit. He said she had 4-inch burn scar on her right rib cage and a 3-inch scar on her left leg. The girl and her male companion checked into the Ropers Motel just east of Pecos city limits Tuesday. Artificial respiration was attempted, but the young woman was dead on arrival. You know, it sort of sounds like maybe she was pushed into the pool, and the guy, the person didn't really help get her out until he thought maybe she was drowned. I mean, it's just bizarre, this whole story, really. Let me move on to the next. Peace Justice J.F. Hightower of Pecos ruled Friday that an unidentified woman found dead Tuesday in a motel swimming pool here died of drowning. Hightower made the ruling after receiving results of an autopsy performed, probably found liquid in her lungs. The autopsy showed the woman, whose age was estimated between 18 and 23, had a slight heart condition, he said. Well, that's interesting. Police were still trying to identify the woman and locate a man who registered at the motel with her Tuesday. The man, also identified, was last seen in a car trailing an ambulance, which took the woman's body to a hospital here. Motel officials said they could not remember the name under which the couple registered. The couple's registration card was turned over to the dead woman's companion when he told a motel employee he would need it for identification. But see, it seems like he took it so that he couldn't be identified. I mean, that's just... and why doesn't he have ID anyways? The woman's body was found by several persons who rushed to the pool after hearing a woman scream several times. So she screamed several times. Yeah, and she's still unknown. This is on the 12th. They seem like they kept trying to find out who this was for a long time. She drowned July 5th in a motel swimming pool after 3 hours. She and a short blonde-haired man checked in as husband and wife. She was swimming alone, motel owner Paul Rooks said. When she began screaming, Rooks' 16-year-old granddaughter pulled her out of the water, but attempts at artificial respiration were in vain. She was dead on arrival. The sheriff said that when the girl's male companion was notified of the accident, the man left but soon returned and persuaded the granddaughter to give him the registration card containing all identification of the couple. Wow. I'd like to know the timing. Did he leave first behind the ambulance and then come back and say, oh, you know what, I need the registration card? Because he thought through what happened. So here's a longer article. This is the 17th of July. Final rites for an unidentified young woman will be held Wednesday, and unless someone steps forward to identify the pretty drowning victim, she will be buried in an unmarked grave in Fairview Cemetery. The girl drowned July 5th in a motel swimming pool here. Her male companion fled the scene and hasn't been heard from since. Only a small group is expected to be on hand for a simple final rites at 3 p.m. Wednesday. The Pecos Funeral Home Chapel, that's where it's going to be. There will be a few local officers in attendance, including Sheriff A.N. Nail. An Odessa couple who are searching for their own... Okay, that wasn't theirs. Let's see. I guess the key is the girl's companion who fled, Nail maintained Saturday. If we could just talk to him, we could probably get the girl identified. From the statement of witnesses, the sheriff said it appeared the man had nothing to do with the girl's death. An autopsy listed drowning as the cause of death. Maybe it's something like this. The guy, he's young, he sort of snuck off with a girl, and, maybe there was, issues like he was just nervous to be associated with a death, possibly. But what was she screaming for, though? Did she fall in the water and she can't swim? But if she can't swim, why did she have a bathing suit on, and why was she at the pool? But maybe he just didn't want to... he just sort of... like we've talked about. The morons out there that somebody dies at their house in a party, and then they chop their body up and put them into... Like, why do they panic like that? You sort of wonder if he was just like, oh man, I'm not supposed to be here with her. Maybe he's actually got a wife himself. I don't think they were married, so... Hey, thanks. On the trail, Kim. So maybe he's got a girlfriend or wife somewhere, and all of a sudden now this is this big deal that's going to turn into something where it would reveal that he was having an affair. Possibly, right? But you still got to account for why was she screaming. Right. From the statement of witnesses, the sheriff said it appeared the man had nothing to do with the girl's death. An autopsy listed drowning. Nail said he thinks the man just got scared and scared and left. He said the man apparently had been too frightened to return to identify the girl. The pretty brunette. But why didn't he just make an anonymous call at some point? I mean, you know, just call in from a payphone somewhere. What a dick, you know. A short, blonde, and slender came to the Roper. I don't give him any. I'm just saying what I think is possible. But this guy, you know, that's absolutely ridiculous that he didn't make sure that people were able to identify her at a later time. Oh, there's people that get like that, though, Christina. That's the weird part. You know, they literally, you know, let's just say that they met. He's married, and he drove her to a hotel, and they checked in, even as husband and wife, so they could be in the same room together. Of course, they didn't have any ID, so. And then she dies in the pool somehow from whatever other reason. Maybe there's some other reason she was screaming. And then he's just like, oh my God, I can't have this. I can't, you know. And he just took off. Yeah, something like that. You know, unless he was involved. I mean, she screamed a few times, it sounds like. Let's see. The pretty brunette and a male companion described as short, blonde, and slender came to the Roper Motel between 1 and 2 p.m., registered as husband and wife, and paid $8.24 in advance for a night's lodging. See, that sounds kind of like that. Paul Rooks, owner of the motel, said there was nothing unusual about the couple's actions. At about 5:30 p.m., several guests heard screaming from the area of the motel pool. Sandy Moore, 16-year-old granddaughter of the motel manager, told investigators officers that she rushed to the pool. See, it's also weird that you heard screaming, rush to the pool, and CPR and things like that didn't save her. So maybe that heart issue that they were talking about played a role. I don't know. They need to find the guy, though. You know, she was wearing a red swimsuit. Miss Moore and a companion pulled the woman from the pool and attempted artificial respiration. But why? How did the guy show up at the pool so quickly? Where was he? An ambulance was summoned, and the victim was taken to Reeves County Memorial Hospital. The woman's companion asked the motel clerk for his registration card back. See, and I think that fits too with what I'm saying. He wanted to make sure that they couldn't track him, because then it would lead back that he was in a hotel with a girl, and maybe he was already with somebody. I don't know. Witnesses said he asked her for direction. Well, the autopsy would have discussed if she was high or not, right, Wally? Fingerprints taken from the victim were sent to Austin and to the FBI in Washington. Several fingerprints were also lifted from the motel room. Some were believed to be that of the man. These also were sent to Austin. Sheriff Nail said the investigation is at a stalemate. Let's see right here. Witnesses said he asked for directions to the hospital and was last seen driving away in a late model sedan. And now then she's buried. A temporary metal and glass marker on the fresh grave. Everybody in the town apparently, donated money and so forth. We'll hear that in a minute. Hey, thanks, Rochelle Black. On the trail, King, man.
Chewbacca? I'll be Chewbacca.
If you want me to be.
Thanks for the early live.
It's live Streamlabs, not live. Couldn't you just tell by the context? Streamlabs. The girl between 17 and 20 years old checked into the motel with a male companion. Among the more than 50 persons at the Pecos Funeral Home chapel for the funeral were a couple from Odessa. That turned out not to be her. They probably felt like a connection, though. Yeah, so the woman had an unidentified male companion checked into the motel about 2 hours before she was pulled from the pool. The man persuaded the motel to give back the registration card. He was described as slender with reddish blonde hair, cut short on top and long on the sides, weighing about 135 to 140 pounds. I mean, that guy would be, in his 70s, mid to late 70s at this point. Let me open up the last one that I found was from 1972, which is 5 years later. So, they kept looking for a long time. Midland County Juvenile and Welfare Authorities Monday were combing through old records in an effort to trace the long-lost sister of an Indiana man, thanks Holly Evans, who thinks she might be the unidentified woman drowned 6 years ago in a Pecos Motel swimming pool. The search was begun at the request of Sam Blotcher, 29, of Moscow, Indiana, who last week said he and his two sisters had been residents of the Tri-County foster home. Anyways, it turned out this wasn't her either. If records indicate she had had x-rays made of her teeth. Yeah, she was described as 19 to 20 years old. So, there was various articles over the years, and then yesterday, there we go.
Police for the Pecos Police Department. I work here with the town of Pecos City. I welcome each and every one of you for coming. Thank you for being here. Little scenario and synopsis about the case that we've been working. On June 28th, 2019, I was contacted by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
Hey, don't worry about it, Rochelle Black.
At that time, they had explained to me that we had a Jane Doe case that had happened here in Reeves County, July the 5th of 1966. At the time, being a newly appointed chief, I was unaware.
See, just to let you guys know, hey, thanks, Charlene S. Just to let you know, when I was playing earlier, when I recorded this on that middle monitor, it had audio underneath the track. What's strange is that I can't hear it, but now I know why. Actually, in my head, I know how that works. In the software program that I use, Streamlabs, you have to have it on monitor so that you can hear the audio being played. If you have an audio clip, so there must be something on there that I need to get rid of. All right. So I apologize for that first show. I'll go delete that video in a few minutes here. All right. But man, crazy.
Of the Jane Doe case, had to do a little research on my own to try to figure out if there were any details, any case file, or any evidence that pertained to this particular investigation. Upon speaking with the NECMEC personnel, Ashley Rodriguez, she had explained to me that the National Center for Unidentified Persons Systems had notified them of our Jane Doe case in 2015.
He actually never, we'll hear here, but you just listen to the description of what happened. I mean, he never even showed up to the hospital. He just took off.
The concern that at that time of her missing, she may have been a juvenile or under the age of 18. Within a few minutes, Ashley Rodriguez of NECMEC was able to provide me at least with a newspaper clipping, a little bit of information about our Jane Doe. From there, I did some research locally and found that July 5th, 1966, there had been a young lady and gentleman that had checked into the local Ropers Motel here in Pecos, looking to be a newly married couple. The two had checked in under the name Mr. and Miss Russell Battoun.
I wonder how they figured that out. I mean, if he took the registration, how did they figure that out? Hey, thanks, Wally Gator.
Upon looking at the article, it looked like
Just a second. Yeah, if he took the registration, I wonder if it was something that they remembered later through hypnosis. That was a big deal back then. Thanks, Wally.
female Jane Doe had been at the swimming pool area, and her male companion had been inside the hotel room. There were reports in newspaper articles that they had heard a scream. One of the workers had run out and found a young female in the swimming pool. She was pulled out of the swimming pool and life-saving efforts were given. She was eventually picked up by the ambulance and taken to a hospital. The companion went to the front desk area and asked for the registration card, which is how they did hotel registration at the time. He explained that that was the only form of identification he was going to have at the hospital. Her male companion never showed up at the hospital, and he had gathered his belongings and left the hotel completely. There's a lot of mixed reports of different descriptions that came out in newspaper articles. We began a local research on Jane Doe 1966, and as you can imagine, the records are over 50 years old. People have changed, law enforcement, some of which are not even surviving anymore. There was no one or nothing that we could do to find any real information or evidence pertaining to this case. The last ditch effort was we contacted our local funeral home, and we were able to speak with an employee there who was an employee in 1966, the day this event happened. I call it, God's will or good luck or whatever you want to call it, but he recalled that in the garage of the funeral home they had archived or vintage records that we would be allowed to look at. We went out to the garage and we found a folder that said unknown X girl, 1966. That's the only information we had when we started this investigation. We were able to get a death certificate. As you can imagine, had very limited information: the date and time, the location, the description of a female. Unknown X girl is what her name is and was at this point. Inside the folder, aside from the death certificate, we found a funeral arrangement packet. We found information of people who had written in letters concerned that this could be their missing child. We also found a registry where people had donated money because our community in Pecos did not want her to just go unknown with just a pauper's grave and just left as the unknown forever. So she was given a proper burial. She was given a proper coffin. And she forever became the unknown drowned girl 1966 in our own Fairview Cemetery, where she's been since July 22nd of 1966, when a proper funeral was held for her. Once we did find out that little bit of information, we reached out once again to National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and collaboratively we agreed that maybe we could do some sort of facial reconstruction. Nobody knew that in this funeral home packet that there was also a couple of Polaroid pictures, 50-year-old Polaroid pictures, so not very good quality. A drawing was put together. Yes, it looked like the girl that we saw in the Polaroid pictures, but there was a lot of missing information, or missing observation, if you will. So we just had a picture that we worked off of.
Sounds like Ted
The
Kennedy.
media did
kinda.
come. We did do more media releases just to try to find out more information. Not much was coming of that. So I assigned an officer, Corporal Felix Salcido, to the case. And at that point, it kind of took a different direction. We reached out to the University of North Texas, who have anthropologists assigned to the missing and unidentified. We reached out to a local judge, Judge Roger Harrison. He was able to guide us through obtaining an exhumation order. In other words, an ability to exhume the body and move forward with some testing. The resources provided to us through NCMEC were the ability to have
And by the way, we donated a lot of money to NCMEC last year too. So see, our funds help do these kinds of things.
the body exhumed, and then have it sent to the University of North Texas, where we did do a skeletal reconstruction. as well as DNA testing for CODIS. At that point, coronavirus hit, everything came to a standstill. In March of 2020, nothing was happening with this case. The lab people were obviously working remotely and at home and weren't in the laboratories. July of 2020, we received the skeletal reconstruction and had been advised by the lab that DNA had been uploaded in CODIS, which is the combined, indexing database for DNA. During the time that we had that submitted, we were contacted by Othram Labs out of the Woodlands to offer their service and explanation of really what their services were. From there, we sent what we needed to evidence-wise to Othram Labs. They were able to do some genetic typing and testing. And at that point, NECMEC again reached out, offered their services to allow us the ability to forward this case on to genealogy. From there, the information was sent to genealogy, where we have innovative forensic labs. After Innovative took over, the genetic side of this, or the genealogy testing, which is an amazing process, and I will let these folks explain a little bit about this. And understandably, this is still a very open, active investigation. Once it was submitted to Innovative Forensics, not only was the genealogy work done, but there's also some amazing investigative work that was done.
Yeah, that's something I didn't realize, I've said this before, but it's always appropriate to say it again, is when I first heard about this genealogy stuff, I went, oh, yeah, man, that must be really demoralizing for those detectives who spent all those years, and then all of a sudden you put it in genealogy, and bam! 2 days later you got an answer, sometimes, right? But it really isn't like that at all. The detectives, a lot of the work they already had done, is also combined with that, but they go around and thank you, Holly Evans.
This channel does a phenomenal job of donating to so many worthy causes. Thank you.
Well, thank all of you guys. It's the generous freaks who make it all happen. I just spend all the hours putting the show on that you guys support. There you go. All right, so they do just a ton of work after the genealogy's done. They have to go around and get different information from different people, and it just it's a lot bigger process, especially in murder cases where you're identifying the suspect. It's really complex. It's not just, oh, here's his name, everybody. Basically, what the genealogy people are doing are providing a very strong lead, and then law enforcement then has to then go back, track to see where that person was, do all of that investigation. Does it make sense that it could be this person? Then they have to get warrants and so forth to be able to collect the DNA, then compare it to the, it's really complicated and very tedious work that they do, even after the identification. It's just a very, very strong lead. Probably about the best lead you could get. A god lead, almost,
Once we got a little further in, a little more information started coming out of possibility of potential candidates that could be related to our Jane Doe. We reached out to Department in Florida. They, in turn, connected us with a cold case unit in a particular town with somebody who was a very viable candidate as a family member to our Jane Doe. You don't want to give anybody a lot of false hope, so we just kind of generically wanted to, see if there was any history behind missing family member, because with this particular person, it already posted some stuff through social media about having a missing family member over 50 years. So some of the stuff was starting to line up a little bit. This particular lady in Florida, she was willing to submit some DNA swabs, which is just a cheek swab. From there, the cheek swabs were submitted back to us as evidence, and we submitted it to Gene by Gene, which is a lab in the Houston area that helped us with the genealogy side. At that point, we, of course, time is of value to us lately. You know, we've waited 50 years, but what's a few more weeks or months? We continue to be just kind of as patient as we can. In the meantime, myself learning a little bit about genealogy, 'cause I had no idea the process or the investigative efforts that go into a case like this, especially a almost 55-year-old case.
You know, by the way, when we'll find out in a minute, she has probably the largest family I've ever heard of. It's ridiculous.
Last week, myself and Corporal Felix Salcido traveled to Kansas, where we met with the possible family of our Jane Doe, with a little bit of information in hand that the evidence provided to us from Innovative Forensics, Othram Labs, Gene by Gene, University of North Texas, led us to our Jane Doe being identified as Jolaine Hemmy. Jolaine Hemmy was 17 years of age the day she was here in our community in Pecos. And talking to the family last week was like talking to him 50 years ago. The emotion was just as raw and just as solid of their missing family member. So as you can see, the picture up front is a picture that the family had. It's a yearbook picture. Picture quality is not as good 50 years ago as it is today, obviously. Being that it is still an open, active investigation, we've learned a lot more from the family and from each of these folks through their efforts. And so obviously it is going to continue to be an open, active investigation. We're still looking to find out who the person was that was with her that day. What information do they have? What can they provide our community? So I'd like to introduce, you can see standing here, Innovative Forensics. This is Ryan Beckman, Jennifer Moore, National Center for Missing.
I edited it out, you know, because they just kind of, it's like a promo thing for their companies. But I put in the NCMEC individual.
And exploited children, Luis Vasquez. Jen Spears, she's out of the Florida area. Seminole County Sheriff's Department. And then Madison is the caseworker for Innovative Forensics. So in other words, she's the one that really keeps things kind of in line for them, I think, on the casework side. We have Michael Vogan with Othram Labs and Dr. David Middleman with Othram Labs as well.
I've seen him. He's
So,
all over the place, that Middleman guy.
with that being said, we are very pleased after 55 years to be able to identify our Jane Doe as Jolaine Hemmy of Salina, Kansas. I appreciate you all coming. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to field what I can.
From Seminole to Salina, Kansas.
About 700 miles.
Tie-in on that is the person from Kansas who moved to Florida, or is the connection there?
A family member, yes sir, had moved to Florida. The majority of this family does still reside in Kansas.
And I guess you said that you don't have a suspect right now. Does the family know if she had been seeing anyone or had any kind of relationship before she left Kansas?
So obviously, so again, lastly, we want to thank the Hemmy family. She's one of 15 children, 9 of which are still surviving.
Anyways, I just cut off some of the stuff that wasn't really.
I also want to give Luis Vasquez
Oh wait, you hear that?
a few
Listen to
minutes
that.
just
Listen
to
to that.
I also want to give Luis Vasquez.
One of 15.
So
huh?
again, lastly, we want to thank the Hemmy family. She's one of 15 children,
15.
9 of which are still surviving.
That's a lot.
I also want to
That's
give Luis
ridiculous.
Vasquez a few minutes just
Look,
to
how do you even have 15 kids? All right. I mean, I know it's technically possible, but
explain what National Center for Missing and Exploited Children does and how they helped in this investigation as well.
hell, you could have an entire basketball team.
Good afternoon,
Phoebe.
and thank you, Chief, for the invitation. My name is Luis Vasquez. I am the Team Madam Coordinator for NCMEC for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I'm a retired FBI agent.
Wow.
And my role
See, that just shows you how awesome NCMEC is. I mean, they're, you know, maybe this year we'll try to send a little bit more over there, you know. I mean, they got a retired FBI guy running some of these cases.
And the role of NCMEC, the National Center, is to facilitate and help with these type of investigations. Investigation like this relies a lot on technology, which is ever-changing. There's a lot of things that come up from day to day, new technology, new methods to investigate. But most importantly, in cases like this, what I find is very beneficial and just as important is the teamwork that comes with working these investigations. And this is a perfect example, what you see here, of teamwork, of what can be accomplished when people get together and decide to work on something, a case that's 54 years old. 54 years old, that's a long time. And so many times we tend to think, well, what can we do? I mean, there's a lot that can be done, and a lot can be done not only on the investigative side, but also from the public getting involved in these type of cases. So what we, as NCMEC, we are the go-between sometimes. We come in and whatever we can do to facilitate, to help, we'll get out there and we'll work with you. So on behalf of the National Center, and again, Chief and Innovative, and thank you everybody for the invitation, and look forward to more results on this, positive things that will come of this and other cases in the future. And thanks again.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think she comes back on. And
I thank you all for coming, telling Jolane's story, and it's not over with yet, obviously.
so, cool. Awesome. There we go. Another positive story. So, well, at least identification anyways. And that, you know, as we all know, the GEDmatch has now made their entire database available for unidentified people. Unidentified bodies. So, that's great news. It's really great news for the case that we're trying to fund, the 1961 hitchhiker case. So, anyways, I hope you guys found that to be interesting. I think it is. I guess in summary, Jolaine Hemmy, who was unknown, went to this Ropers Motel in Texas, in a small town called Pecos, at this hotel right here. And she went there with an individual. I can't remember the name that they checked in under, but it sounds like it was they claimed that they were married when they checked in. And then about, I think that was around 12:30, and then 3 hours later, maybe it was 2:30. I can't remember. It was 3 hours after they checked in. She was at the swimming pool, apparently, and people in the complex there heard screaming. And the hotel manager's daughter, who's 16, went running into the pool area and saw her floating in the water and pulled her out. And then the guy that Jolaine showed up with at the hotel was in there too, helped pull her out of the water, gave her CPR. Then the ambulance showed up and took Jolaine to the hospital. But the guy that Jolaine was with said, "Hey, I need to have the registration card back because it's the only form of ID I had," and apparently left. And it looked like he was following the ambulance, but he never showed up at the hospital, and he disappeared. And for 55 years, she has been unidentified until just recently. And now they have her name, and I think they want to get a hold of the person she was with. I think it sounds like it's possible. I don't know what the screaming part is what makes it a little bit more suspicious. Multiple screams. Did she fall into the water and can't swim? But if she can't swim, why the hell did she have a swimming suit on? I guess some people do go to the shallow end or whatever, but it's. I think she might have been there sort of on a guy that she'd met, and they were going to a hotel to have fun. That's kind of a common deal. And I think this guy, it's possible, he may have even been a little older, let's say. Maybe he was even married, or he had another girlfriend, and he was more interested in, but he just wanted to have a sexual weeknight out or something like that. So then she dies, and he kind of knew that she was, maybe he thought she had a chance of living and took off because he didn't want to be associated with it. But I'm sure he found out later that she didn't live. And I think it's insane that he didn't call over there. It could have a more nefarious, circumstances. I just think that this guy most likely was somebody that just bailed because he didn't want to be found out that he was there with a woman, because the rest of his life would have been turned upside down. Okay, I think that's most likely. The screaming part, I'd like to know the reason for the screaming. Was it that she fell in and she was just popping her head above the water screaming because she was going to drown? But again, why was she at the pool if she can't swim? All kinds of unanswered questions that would be great to have the answer to. All right, everybody. Well, thank you all very much. Thank you to Zozo, On the Trail Kim, Rochelle Black, Holly Evans, Charlene S., Wally Gator, and Holly Evans again. And who was the person that... thank you very much, Charlene S. And then who sent the donation in on the previous stream where it didn't work? Chewbacca?
I'll do Chewbacca if you want me to.
She's from Salina, Kansas. That's where she's from. One of 15 children, believe it or not. And the Ropers Motel is in this town called Pecos, Texas. They may have even picked that town because not very many people lived there at the time. So thank you, Charlene S. And tonight we're going to be going back over some more of the case that we were discussing last night, the LaSalle Street murders. It's a pretty interesting case. If you guys want, you can go watch the first version of it. But there were 3 people, murdered in a house. I'm going to try to get the information in order that we've already gone over so that I can recap it. So I'll be doing that before the show. Okay? So anyways, hey, thank you, Christina from the UK, it looks like. All right, so thank you guys very much. And as I always say, everybody, until next time, be safe out there. And a 2 and a 3 and a... Yeah, I've been doing this true crime thing for quite a while now. And during this whole time, I have not seen one person that is a crime dissector, plug rejector. I'm a certified human lie detector.
Go Lori,
gonna get ya.
go Lori,
Gonna stretch ya.
go
You can try
Lori.
and play me like an old projector. Crime sector is my nectar. Professor Gragel's gonna give another lecture. Crime collector, freak connector, and I'm always gonna be a pup protector, fool deflector, interceptor, and I mean a specter with a vector on his pector. With all respect, y'all, just remember I've a temper fucking checked ya. I have no agenda, I'm no pretender, and I'll serve it to you straight without the blender. And in the end, I'm gonna send ya on a mission to reveal the true offender.
Alright.
Yeah, so I'll just get right back to work. Alright, everybody?
Hey everybody, thanks for showing up.
Yeah, hey, we'll see you guys a little bit later.
Yeah, I was gonna say that though. Why'd you interrupt me?
I don't know, because you hadn't said it yet.
Cause you're so mean.
Oh my god. Would you guys quit the melodrama? Alright, see you guys later. Be safe out there.